gonna tell them youth? What we gonna tell them children?
What we've witnessed in the last week going on in England is not an accident. It wasn't planned. It's like you come out of your house one morning and you see a plant right by your front door. And you think to yourself, well, hang on, I didn't put that seed there. The bird dropped it or something happened. And it's grown. But it's grown so remarkably fast. It had to have had nourishment from somewhere. So in looking at the true perspective of what's been happening in England, you can't look in England because the root isn't in England. At least the root that is nurturing this thing isn't in England and isn't amongst the people. It is somewhere else. And so, hence, you from England can't see why this beautiful democratic nation that you've had for so long has suddenly come up and ended up into this terrible debacle that's going on right now. You've got to look past it. You've got to look into history, because everything that's happening now is as a result of something that took place in history. If we look at recent history, we'll see the flare-ups in the Middle East, in Africa. We'll see, if you go a little further back, you'll see the flare-ups in South America, in Africa. And if you look even further back, you will see the ones in India and China, and so on. And then you have to put together a perspective of what really happened, what really started those things. And invariably, it's the common denominator in every regard is greed. Greed is the seed, and politics is the water. Politics being what we consider the management of the people, the management of the people's business. Well, that's gone wrong. So you now have got an aberration of the seed. The seed is growing faster than under normal conditions. Normal conditions would have been that you would have been pouring water on the seed. But these aren't normal times. What's happening now is that you're pouring something else. The greed factor has become so ridiculous that of late we've seen in 2008 something happened totally outside of our conception. Something that we would never have ever believed was possible. The world went broke. The world went broke. It's amazing. Nobody in the world, no great mind, 6 Einsteins would never have worked out that the world could go broke. But the world did indeed go broke. And as we are standing now, nothing is really being done about it because nobody understands why the world went broke. Well, let's go back now to the riots in England. Nobody, the Prime Minister, his whole cabinet, all the mothers and fathers in the country, do not understand. Simply because they're not taking the time to understand their history. Now, if you go around the world planting seeds and watering them, in normal times, those things will mature and create the confusion that you require because of your greed. Now, you change the formula to a point where by pressing a button or issuing forth some magic word, you can speed up time. Then you get the aberration that you've gotten now. So the seeds that were planted have been enabled to fly, to come to your country. Never before in history was it possible, because in order for that to happen, it would have had to get on board a plane, or before that it had to get on board a train or a boat or something. But today, just like they can tell you in the case of Obama's presidency, that something ultra spectacular happened, that they were able to engage a population that didn't exist in other elections. Suddenly you've got a situation now where it's not that operating for Obama, but it's operating anti-Obama, anti-Cameron, anti all these leaders, because now the people understand how to make the seed grow faster. Basically, that's really what has happened. It is just that the seed of discontent that has been in some way managed has gone out of control. Don't look anywhere else, Mr. Cameron or Mr. Obama or anybody else. Just look to the actions that you or your past governments or whatever it is that has controlled the world have done over a period of time. And you will see why it is that you have this. This is going to go on. This is not something that's going to stop. This is going to go to America. It's going to continue in Britain, because nobody is going to be looking at those things. It's going to come to the Caribbean. It's already been in the Middle East, and we see the people, the children, the youth they've gained access to the machines, the mechanisms of power. The tail is wagging the dog. You've made them greedy for things that don't matter. The whole greed concept was set up a long time ago. It's not their fault. It's not those kids or young people's fault. The mechanism was set up a long time ago. It is just that the catalyst wasn't there at the time. It couldn't have happened in their mother's time. They tried. I mean, we've seen where in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, people tried to manipulate governments and organizations. Couldn't work because the right catalyst was not there. It's there now. So the greed factor that you've been feeding your populations with significantly over the years, many, many years, has finally come home to roost. People now want things for no other reason than they want things. They don't even know why they want those things. You hear the things that the people are stealing? It's not food. It's not sustenance. It's not education. It's nothing. It is the things that you have created, the Wii's, this widescreen television, the instant gratification things. And those things are broken by the time they come out of the shops that the guys loot them out of. So those guys know that, in a way, what they're stealing is valueless. Nevertheless, someone has given them a value. And so people, these same people, are running around and telling each other, look, go and steal a PlayStation. But a PlayStation is useless. If your child or your brother is sick or hungry, it's useless to him. So the whole set of false values that our peoples, and this is not a race issue, this is a people issue. We have, through time, learned the greed of each other to the extent that it's become viral, and it will pass on and on until such time as common sense starts to prevail.
How we gonna live? Oh yeah, when the fighting stop. Are we gonna live? Oh yeah, together or not? Oh, let's get started tonight.
Over a period of time, I've written songs that speak to the human condition, one way or the other. Whatever it is that I felt needed addressing in some way or the other, I've tried to address. However, just like the seeds sitting in the ground because no one would water them or water them sufficiently, the songs have sat in very much the same way in the ground. Songs like Living on the Front Line, it got watered, it came out, people took notice of it, it became part of the culture, part of the cultural landscape of the world. People paid notice. Songs like War Party, people took notice. And then all of a sudden you have a situation where someone thinks, you know, this guy writes this song, that song. We won't play these particular kinds of songs. But if you were patient and looked, you would have seen not only Living on the Front Line, not only War Party, not only Electric Avenue, you would have noticed Another Riot. You would have noticed the Youth Tom Tom. These are songs that speak to what I have visualized that will and can happen in our dispensation, current dispensation at the time. Because you have to remember, a song like Another Riot would have been written maybe 25 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. I mean, the Youth Tom Tom, same time, you know, and around that you would find certain things happening, certain events happening, and they were like little warnings. But people today don't pay, or people in the media don't pay attention to anything that's sensible anymore. We are feeding our people crap. We are feeding our people things that cannot sustain them. Bad food, bad education, bad knowledge, no wisdom, no time for. And so these are the kinds of songs that would suffer. It's not only me. You have many other writers, guys who have been writing things and saying things as they've seen them genuinely. I'm not talking about the piss artists. I'm talking about people who genuinely feel something when they see a human condition. And so, you know, I was looking at one of the programs, I think it was Hard Talk, last night, and they were interviewing a young black man, or a youngish black man, and an oldish white man. I can't remember what their designations were. But one thing was very important. They asked a question, or a question was asked about the part that the media plays in propagating the seeds of discontent. That question was never answered. I mean, such sleight of hand, it was beautiful. And I thought to myself, also, that can go, but the issue of whether it was racial or class or whatever it is cannot go. You will chase that, the media will chase that into the ground. So they don't chase the issue of whether the media plays a significant part in propagating this. Well, of course, the media does. You know, the media always does. And the media serves its masters.
How we gonna live? Oh yeah, when the fighting stop. Are we gonna live? Oh yeah, together or not? Oh, let's get started tonight. How are we gonna tell them youth? How are we gonna tell them children?
What we've witnessed in the last week going on in England is not an accident. It wasn't planned. It's like you come out of your house one morning and you see a plant right by your front door. And you think to yourself, well, hang on, I didn't put that seed there. A bird dropped it or something happened, and it's grown. But it's grown so remarkably fast. It had to have had nourishment from somewhere. So in looking at the true perspective of what's been happening in England, you can't look in England because the root isn't in England. At least the root that is nurturing this thing isn't in England and isn't amongst the people. It is somewhere else. And so, hence, you from England can't see why this beautiful democratic nation that you've had for so long has suddenly come up and ended up into this terrible debacle that's going on right now. You've got to look past it. You've got to look into history, because everything that's happening now is as a result of something that took place in history. If we look at recent history, we'll see the flare-ups in the Middle East, in Africa. We'll see, if you go a little further back, you'll see the flare-ups in South America.